Hey guys, welcome back to this Linux course. So in this particular session, we'll be learning looping statements. First we'll learn what exactly is looping statement and why do we need it. After that, we'll look at the various looping statements like for, while and until. So first let's learn what exactly is and the types of loops. So first you can see these are the types of loops. Before starting off with it, let me tell you what exactly is a loop. So first, why do we need loops? So loops are basically an entity which keeps on repeating when a particular statement is true or a particular condition is true. So let's say we are running a program and this program should execute only if a particular statement is true, and it should be keep on executing until that particular statement become false. So let's say you are sick. So that's what I was telling in the first example for conditional statements. Now let's assume you are sick. So now you are sick, you're going to the doctor. So the doctor is saying, so take this medicine. If you're well, you don't need to come. If you're not well, come back in 3 days. So now after 3 days you're not well, so you're going back. So the doctor is prescribing you new medicines. Now he's again telling, again, if you're not well, come back in 3 days. If these tablets have cured it, then it's fine. Then again you're sick, you go back to the doctor. So again this process will repeat until you get well. You go to the doctor until you get well. So when you get well, that particular statement that you are sick will become false, and after that, that particular execution will stop. You will not go to the doctor. You will only go to the doctor again when you are sick. So this is how a loop works. So there are multiple types of loops as well. So there are mainly 3 types we are going to look into in this particular session. One is while, second one is until, and third one is for. So first, if the given command is true, loop executes. If false, comes out of the loop. So while loop is basically a simple loop. We'll read more about it. We'll talk more about it. It's basically a simple loop where you can just type in while and condition. So if that condition after while is true, that loop will be happening continuously. If that particular condition becomes false, then that loop will stop. Now coming to until, it is the same as while. It is so very similar as while statement, but it will loop the test case until the test case becomes true. So it is an opposite version of it. So here, if it is true, it will keep looping it on. But in until, so the condition will be false. So if it is false, it will loop, and once the condition turns true, then it will quit out of the loop. So it is basically the opposite version of while loop. And finally we have the for loop. So for loop, basically you provide an iteration principle. Basically you provide a condition again. So here it uses a given set of data to iterate until the given command is false. So now given set in the sense, let's say there are 10 numbers. So you want to run this loop until the 10 numbers are complete. So if the number if the count is equal to 10, then that particular loop should stop. So now you can use a for loop for that by providing the condition that once, right now the number is at 1, when it gets to 10, this particular loop should stop. So in that case, you can use the for loop. So these are the 3 loops we'll be looking into this session. Let's go further and look into them in more depth. So while, it's pretty simple. When the command is true, it keeps on executing the statements between do. So once it executes the statement once, it goes to done and goes back to while again to check whether the condition is true or false right now. If it is true, again it executes the statements and goes back to while again. So again it checks the condition. If that condition or command is true, again it goes back. So now in the next try, it becomes false, the command or the condition becomes false, then this particular while loop will stop. So this is the flowchart of the while loop. So first, while test is basically the condition which I am providing here. If the test condition is true, then it will do the statements and this process. So you can see this, if it is true, it will go ahead, and again if it is true, it will go. So this particular thing will be looping continuously. That is why this is called a looping statement, and also it is a while loop. Now when this particular condition becomes false, then it will stop the loop, and if you have other code, it will go execute the rest of the code below that while loop. If there is no code, it will just end the script. So this is while loop. So this is an example of it. You can see count is equal to 1 while $count is lesser than or equal to 5, then do echo $count. So it is basically increasing the count. We are basically increasing the count. When the count is equal to 5, it will automatically stop this while loop. So count currently it is 1. So if we check here, 1 will be lesser than or equal to 5. That will be true. So it will execute. So it will print 1. Then it will add 1 plus 1 to the existing count number, which would be 2. Now 2 is lesser than or equal to 5. It is true. again it prints 2, then it goes back and adds another 1, that will become 3. Now 3 is lesser than or equal to 5, again the same thing will happen. Then 4 is lesser than or equal to 5, again it will loop. Now 5 is lesser than or equal to 5, this condition is false, so basically 5 is equal to 5, so it will stop the condition. So until the condition gets true, so it will stop it. So that's how this while condition works. Now I've executed it. You can see 1 2 3 4 5 was printed here. And now coming to until, so it keeps executing the statements until the command becomes true. So now the same thing, if it is false, it will keep on executing it. If it is true, it will stop the loop. So now you can see if count is greater than 5, do echo $count. Greater than, it is just greater than. If 1 is greater than 5, so 1 is greater than 5 is a false statement, so it will execute. If the count value is 10 over here, 10 is greater than 5, it is true, then it will come out of the loop. But here, as it is 1 is greater than 5 is a false statement, so it will execute. So now if we see the output, you can see it is 1 2 3 4 5. It is the same output as this particular while loop, but the only thing I changed between the while loop and the until loop is here it is lesser than or equal to, and here it is greater than. So that is the only difference. It is, as I told you, it is the vice versa of the while loop. And finally, for loop. Now according to the given list, it executes the commands for each item. So for variable, so this is the variable you'll have to provide. It will use this variable to iterate in a particular list. A list will have a set of items within it. Now this thing is the same. Now let us look at the for loop. Again, it's the same. For variable in $list, so for every item in $list, it will execute. So let's say this particular list has 5 items. So first item, it will execute, go back. There is a second item, execute, go back. Third item, fourth item, fifth item, and it does not have a sixth item. So right now it will not be able to execute it once again. So now the list will not have items, so it will stop the loop. Now let us look at the code. So now pets, dog, cat, parrot, and fish. For pet, this is the variable. In pets is the list we created. So do echo $pet. So what would be the output? It would be dog, cat, parrot, and fish. Dog, cat, parrot, and fish, because it executed for every single item in this particular list. So that's how this works. So let's say if you have provided one more, then even that will be available here, because that is the condition for loop takes. So this is how for loop works, and we've seen while and until as well. So now, there is one more thing there. So first we've seen this. We've seen the 3 types of loops. While, going here, while, until, and for. We've seen how they work, and we have also seen the sample code. Now we'll have to see the flow control statements. Even the flow control statements come within the loop statements, because we use break and continue in the loop statements. So let's say you created a statement which does not end only when a particular condition is true, then you want to stop it abruptly, then you can use break. So the break statement tells bash to leave the loop whenever it encounters the break statement. So let's say you are running a loop, and inside that you have put an if condition, and let's say that if condition is true right now, and inside that if condition you have the break command, so that will break that condition. So if you put a break inside your while loop, then it will break the while loop. Basically it will stop that while loop and go down to the rest of the code. And if you put continue, it will break that particular loop and it will start a new iteration. An iteration is one execution. So first, let's say one execution is running, and this particular the shell comes across a continue statement. Now it will read the continue statement and it will stop the particular execution abruptly, and it will start a new iteration from there itself. It will not do the rest of the statements under that continue statement. So this is how break and continue are used, and these are very important. Let us look at how they are structured. So break, while, command, do. So inside that you can see there is a break command, so it will break the loop, and there is a continue command which will start it once again. So let's see the example. So you can see here, while var is lesser than 10. So while this particular variable's value is lesser than 10, if it is true, then it will execute it. If statement 1 in the sense some statement within the while loop. So if var is equal to 8, then break. So until this gets, so let's say we're adding 1 by 1 in each iteration until it becomes 8. Once it becomes 8, it will break out of the loop and it will directly go to the rest of the code. So if it never achieves 8, so let's say you provided var lesser than 6, if the condition itself fails, it will stop the loop directly. And then continue is basically, you can see that I'm using the same example, but I've added continue here. So now what continue does is it will abruptly stop the execution right here, and even though there are statements under the continue statement, it will not execute them once continue is noticed. So this continue will abruptly stop it and take it back to the while condition, and again it will check, come back. If again it is true and continue is noticed, then again it will take you back to the execution statement, the while statement. So break will stop the execution and take you to the rest of the code. Continue will stop the execution but will again take you to the while condition itself, not out of the loop. So once again, if you are using continue only if the condition fails, or when the condition is false, it will stop the loop or come out of the loop. So we've seen 3 types of loops and 2 types of flow control statements. Now, so in the next session, we'll do these in the terminal and practice them.